Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on the troublesome reign of King John, and we get to hear from Louis the Dauphin today in Act 2, Scene 7, which we are getting very, very close to the end of this play. This is going to wrap up really soon. There's like 4 monologues to go, and then we're done. But that's another story. So anyway, Louis the Dauphin, the last time that we saw him, he and his troops had arrived in England, and they really hadn't met a lot of resistance as they were working their way through England to meet up with the English nobles. But Louis and the French side, including Maloun, were like, these English nobles are traitors to John because they want to work with me, so what's going to prevent them from becoming traitors to me? So as soon as we've ousted John, we will get rid of the nobles. They all decide that that's hunky-dory. But then the battle goes on, and Maloun is grievously injured, and he goes and finds the English lords before he dies and says, Louis is planning to kill you if you stay on his side. So if you stay there, as soon as John is overthrown, you're going to be killed. So you should go back and you should fight for England because you're Englishmen and you shouldn't be fighting against England. And then Maloun dies, and the English lords decide that, yes, we will go back and fight with John. John is currently in an abbey because he's not well. He had to leave the battlefield. He's not well. He's retreated to Swinstead Abbey, where Friar Thomas, the monk, is planning on killing him because he is an enemy to the abbey. So that's all the stuff that has happened to bring us to here. At the top of Act 2, Scene 7, we are near Bury St. Edmunds, and Louis comes in with his army, and he says to them, "Thus victory, in bloody laurel clad, follows the fortune of young Lodovick. The Englishmen, as daunted at our sight, fall as the fowl before the eagle's eyes. Only 2 crosses of contrary change do nip my heart and vex me with unrest. Lord Maloun's death, the one part of my soul. A braver man did never live in France. The other grief, that's a gall indeed, to think that Dover Castle should hold out against all assaults and rest impregnable. Ye warlike race of Francus, Hector's son, triumph in conquest of that tyrant John. The better half of England is our own, and towards the conquest of the other part, we have the face of all the English lords. What then remains but overrun the land? Be resolute, my warlike followers, and if good fortune serve as she begins, the poorest peasant of the realm of France shall be a master or an English lord. Fellow, what news?" So this is Louis pumping everybody up. The war has been going on for a little while, but he's giving a little bit of a pep talk here. And he starts out saying, like, we've got this. We've got this in the bag. Things are going great, that we are beating the English back everywhere that we go. He's like, there's only 2 things that bother me. It bothers me that Maloun died because he was a good guy. And it also bothers me that Dover Castle, like, we haven't been able to take Dover Castle. But beyond that, he's like, we've got the rest of it in the bag. The English nobles are on our side. So all we have to do is basically walk through the country and it will become ours. And I promise you, even the poorest Frenchman is going to become a lord, and he's going to have Englishmen as his servants. Huzzah! And at the very end, a messenger comes in. So he says, "Messenger, fellow, what do you have to tell me?" And the messenger is like, the English lords have all gone back to fight with John. They've all deserted you and gone back to John. And Louis is like, oh. And then a second messenger comes in and says that the French reinforcements have all been lost at sea. They were expecting more ships with more provisions and more ammunition and all of that has been lost at sea. And Louis is like, ugh. And then a third messenger comes in, but this third messenger says that John had to flee the field, and then a lot of English troops were sort of washed away with the tides, so they still technically have the advantage. So Louis finishes off the scene with like, huzzah, we can go and do this. We are still the best. Let's go conquer England. And that's the end of Act 2, Scene 7. In Shakespeare's version, there's a similar scene. It's like Act 5, Scene 5, and it's with Lewis and the French army, and he's giving them a pep talk, but then just one messenger comes in and gives the news that the reinforcements aren't coming, that the English lords have gone back to King John, and also the King John had to leave the field. So it still also ends with Lewis being like, let's go beat England. It's just this one has 3 messengers because comedy happens in threes, I guess. Anyway, that's the end of this Act 2, Scene 7, and as I mentioned, we've got 3 of these left to go, so this is going to wrap up pretty soon, and who do you think is going to be successful? Who's going to come out of this King of England? Come on back tomorrow for more, and we'll find out. Mwah.